Thank you, Terry. I'm really excited to be here today to talk about your book, Fighting Under the Stars and Bars. Before we get into the questions about yourself, can you tell us a little bit about the book?
Okay, sure. First, I'd like to say that I'm grateful for being here. I know that my books don't show my picture, so it gives me this opportunity to actually for you to see me and see I'm just like you.
That's great, Terry. What inspired you to write this book?
It gave me the opportunity to merge both my passion for writing as well as my interest in history, American history, specifically, and more even specific, the American Civil War. So that inspired me. I didn't want to look back 5 years from now and say, or when I started the book 5 years from now and say, what if? But I wanted to do it, see what would happen. So now I've written three books now.
Wow, that's a lot of books.
Yeah.
I'm glad you were able to find the time to get it done and make it happen. You mentioned you've already written 3 books, but how long have you been writing, or when did you start writing?
I actually started writing when I was 8 years old. Short stories and things like that, fictional battles, fictional football games starring my favorite team, the Los Angeles Rams, who always won. And then, I have a degree in journalism, public relations, and the Stars and Bars, that actually started in a series that probably was started, about 2000. The first book, Under the Stars and Bars, a Civil War novella, was in retrospect poorly written. So when I'd written the second book, Confederate Saddle, and then I was 20,000 words into Gray Becomes Black, my brother and editor suggested I rewrite the first book, and I did rewrite it, Fighting Under the Stars and Bars. That took me about a week to rewrite it, and I'm very happy with the end result. Absolutely, without a doubt.
I'm glad you're happy about the result. Now, what was the most challenging part of your writing process?
Most challenging part of my writing is because I write historical fiction, and it's also not only challenging but enjoyable. Historical fiction, the most thing is the research. Because it is historical fiction, it has to be accurate, or you're going to lose the reader, in my opinion. And so being accurate is very important. I spend a lot of my time research, making sure these events happened, where they occurred, who was involved, and then I put my character in that setting.
Well, that's good to know your writing process, especially for people that want to start out writing. Now, as an author, what comes first for you? The plot or the characters, and why?
Okay, in this series, it was the plot, and that continues through the series. But in relation to this book, I pondered, how did Thomas Jackson, who became Stonewall Jackson, how did he get shot by his own men? I kind of like, how did that actually happen? So as it went on, I did find out how it actually did happen. But as that book progressed, it became more about the character Caleb Lewis and how his beliefs how Stonewall influences him, as well as his own experiences influence him throughout the rest of the book. But it started with that, wondering about Stonewall Jackson and how he could be shot by his own men.
Okay. Now, can you share with us what your favorite and least favorite part of publishing is?
My least favorite part is the formatting of it. So I have an editor that's great. So she actually formats it for me, makes sure it gets out to text and actually email form. The most enjoyable part is just simply creative writing. I enjoy it.
And
creating the story is great. I love it.
Well, I'm sure you do, because you've already written 3 books, and that's great, right? And I love how you're enthusiastic about your current book, Fighting Under the Stars and Bars. Now, What part of the book was the most fun to write?
I can't say a specific part. I enjoyed writing the whole book. I've enjoyed writing the whole series, to be quite honest with you. I don't think anything that, is like more is a more favorable to me than any others. I enjoyed all of it.
And with that said, can you share a little bit of what the book is about?
Yeah, the part that basically it is about. It started out with the man who became Stonewall Jackson, but more it's about the character Caleb and how because of circumstances he finds out that what he may have believed starting out is not at all how it is. It is a story of a common soldier, Caleb, and then in Confederate saddle his brother Levon. So it's just more his growth pattern, not only having to mature and but living through that, surviving it.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Now, which of the characters do you relate to the most and why?
The character I most relate to is well, I relate to both Caleb and then his fellow North Carolina trooper Sim. The reason I visualize with Caleb is because I can sympathize with him. I feel strangely said, I feel a kinship with Caleb. I really do. I believe in my characters. Sim, I like him because he's a true friend. He comes across as a almost like a big brother figure to Caleb. He protects to a certain Caleb, and he also consoles him when he is involved in the shooting of Stonewall Jackson.
And what inspired the idea of the book?
My interest in the Civil War, but also like once again my puzzlement over the shooting of Stonewall Jackson, because that's like to me it was like, how could you be shot by your own man? That just like blew me away. And then when I found out what I thought actually happened, actually turned out to be quite different. Not only through visiting Fredericksburg Visitor Center when I was there, but also just reading a lot of different things about statements about what actually happened. And I actually visited also where he was shot and where he was carried to after being shot.
Well, it looks like you did a lot of your homework to make
I
something
did. I did.
as creative and great as this book. How long did it take you to write it?
Well, I started writing the book that became Fighting Under Stars. I actually began writing it in 2000, but I would say actively writing it because rewriting the book only took me like a week. So overall for this series, I would say it started in probably 2000, probably about 2015 or so. And then I've been writing constantly since. In fact, besides having these 3 books published, I have a 4th book that I'm writing now, which is also Civil War related.
Well, I'm going to watch out for your next book after I finish reading this current book. How did you come up with this title for this book?
That's an excellent question. I don't know. It's just like, it just kind of sort of came to me. I did want to differentiate for the reader between the Union and the Confederate. So being that the Confederate battle flag was stars and bars, it seemed fighting under the stars and bars was a natural progression of that, or a natural bringing to that, but also kind of transferred from the first book that has been rewritten.
That's good. It makes it more fluid, right?
Exactly.
Reading it from the previous book. Would you and your main character get along?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said before, I feel a certain kinship to Caleb, and yeah, I know I love him. I enjoy all my characters. Thankfully, I have very few, but I do have some evil characters. But the case of Caleb, yeah, I know I would get along with him because he's somewhat like me in some respects.
And I think that's good that you shared that, because now that we can see you, since it's not on your book, people can relate to who you are and the story of your book.
Right. That's what I'm, like I said, I'm so grateful to be here this morning because I don't have pictures on my 3 books of me that you can see me and see that, hey, I'm just a normal guy.
Well, an inspiration at that. Um, Now let's talk a little bit about your writing process. What is your schedule like when you're writing a book?
I don't have a specific schedule, and I'll tell you why. Is because I have another job that sometimes the responsibilities of that job take precedence. Um, I would like to write every day, but sometimes that's not possible. That's a suggestion that was I found in Stephen King's book, The Art of Writing. But a lot of times for me to write, it just sort of comes on me. I feel the need to. I might ponder a particular situation or a kind of a plot for a while in my head before I start writing it. And then when the mood takes me, there I go.
Good. Um, how do you celebrate when you finish your book?
No big parties or anything like that. It's just a basic sense of accomplishment, satisfaction in that it, when I see that first printing, that's when my enjoyment, that's when my satisfaction gets in. That's how I celebrate, just the satisfaction of, yeah, I did it. It's good. I'm confident. When a book comes out for me, it has to be like spot on. In fact, it has to feel good to me and know that, yeah, that's what happened. It's accurate. It's fluid. That's what I get. Sense of accomplishment. That's my way of celebration.
And I think that's the most important part, is that you feel accomplished, because if you didn't, then there's no point in celebrating what you just finished. So I think that's
Right.
good to feel the sense of joy and peace that you were able to create something this good. Um, what spiritual or therapeutic practices help you get into the right headspace?
It's mostly a physical release, either like going to the gym or hiking. Once again, I usually have some kind of little bit of snippets of information that I've kind of circulated in my head as I'm trying to formulate that part of the book, and so I'll get kind of a clear headedness or maybe more focus by either physical exercise, whether it be the gym or hiking or yard work, something as simple as that. So it's just a way of clearing the head, stepping away from it, if you will.
I like those answers because they're pretty normal, and you know it's something that's doable. What do the words literary success mean to you? How do you picture it?
Okay, once again, it's 100,000 units a year. That'd be great, but also, just like I said before, it's just to be respected by my peers, saying, "Wow, yeah, this guy, can write." And I've got a few recommendations by some people that are really celebrated authors. Comes to mind is Jessica James, who's a one of the top 50 Southern historical writers, and she read my stuff and she says, "Yeah, did I take the necessary research to make it authentic and things like that?" So yeah, that means the world to me. I respect her, and to have somebody of that renown is very important. That's what I shoot for.
Thank you, Terry. Would you share something about yourself that your readers don't know yet?
Yeah, I'm a see classic rock trivia history. By the way, that's something that I do. I have somebody that told me, well, you should have a music trivia show like on the radio. I said, no, it's already being done out here in Phoenix, Arizona. Alice Cooper, a renowned musician, Alice Cooper, he has something where he plays, tracks and stuff like that. So it's already been done, and he's been doing it pretty well. But yeah, I have a lot of interest in that time period, anything from the 60s on up to today. Not so much today as much as the 60s. And so people kind of kid me about it. It's like, man, are you always wanting to know stuff like that? Well, yeah, I'm interested in it because history.
Well, thank you for sharing that about yourself. What advice can you give to the writers, to other writers or young writers?
To keep writing, no matter what. And Stephen King's another thing came out of Stephen's book, The Art of Writing, was to write when you don't feel like writing, even if it's a 1,000 words or so, because some of my best ideas come out of that more of a free form kind of writing. Now maybe I'm just starting to write like 1,000 words or so, and I'll go, well, wait a minute, I would like to put that somewhere in the book. Where would that fit in?
Got it. I have a few more questions. Or before we get to my last question, can you tell us where we can purchase your book?
Certainly through Amazon.com, but also individually through me and my email. If an individual contacts me through the email, tells me a little bit about themselves, I'll write a personal inscription to them and get it out to them. The cost is a little bit more than you might find on Amazon.com. That's because of the inscription and the shipping cost.
Thank you, Terry.
Oh, and under Amazon.com, I want to add, there's Terry P. Collins. If you go under just Terry Collins, you're probably going to get Square Fat Bob's books rather than mine.
Well, thank you for giving us that information. And lastly, how was your experience working with Bookmark Alliance?
Spectacular, because Bookmark Alliance, you guys have, did exactly what I wanted. My important thing was exposure, such as this interview, exposure, big name, Amazon reviews. The Bookmark Alliance provided that, and now this providing me even more exposure. Spectacular. I couldn't be happier.
Thank you, Terry. Now, do you have any final message before we end this interview to your viewers?
I would like to show you the 3 books. It is a series. This is the first book, Fighting Under the Stars and Bars. Okay. The second book, which focuses on Caleb's brother, is called Confederate Saddle. And the third is a culmination of both brothers. Gray becomes black. I think you'll enjoy reading them as much as I enjoy writing them.
Well, thank you, Terry. It was a pleasure talking to you today. I look forward to reading more about Finding Under the Stars and Bars.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Take care, everybody.